All right. Trying to get this working on Instagram. But hello, everyone. It's Shayna Davis, income and influence strategist. This is the first live stream that I've done here inside of the influence economy. So, welcome. I hope everyone is having a happy Wednesday. All right, getting Instagram going over here. First time you do something, it's always like, But anyway, happy Wednesday, or is today Wednesday? Yeah, happy Wednesday. I hope everyone is having a great day. This is going to be my first of many live streams that I will be doing. My goal is to do them on most Wednesdays. And I'm not exactly sure why this is not showing everything on my screen. But anyway, we're going to get to it. So this is a new format that I'm going to start doing. I am going to start trying to do live streams on, I'm calling it most Wednesdays. I learned that from my friend Tanya, that my goal is to go live on most Wednesdays. I will still be doing shorter form content. I'll still continue to do my podcast, but this is something that I am going to do a little bit more conversationally. And I don't know how many people will be here the first time that I am doing this, but the more you talk back to me, the more I'll be able to talk to you. So this is going to be less scripted, less formal than the podcast, and obviously completely different than what I could potentially be doing on my social media post reels, et cetera, et cetera. And so I do recommend that you follow me on Instagram. If you're not, you can see it at the bottom of the screen there. I am at Shayna Rattler Davis on Instagram. I think that's what our page is on Facebook as well. And then I do recommend that you listen into the Influence Economy podcast every single Monday as well. But this is just going to be an opportunity again for me to get messages out that I think are going to be beneficial to women, and not necessarily in the same ways that I am doing on the podcast or in social media in other forms. And so I want to welcome you to this quick power session on the influence economy. For this first one here, we're going to be talking about what exactly is the influence economy and why exactly does it matter. And going forward, we will discuss more of this. But whether you are an entrepreneur, a leader, a podcast host, this conversation is going to apply to you, because influence is no longer a nice to have, it is a necessity. It is currency. But the problem is that most of us, especially women, we have not been taught how to own our influence as an asset. We haven't been taught how to be strategic about leveraging it and about nurturing it. And that's why I'm so committed to what it is that I'm doing here in this season. So today we're going to be talking about how do you really get real returns on your influence? How do we get return on investment on our influence? So I guess ROI can also be return on influence. So we're going to talk about how we can get those real returns on our influence, and how we can make sure that we are actually treating our influence like a currency. Now, I know I've got mixed company here. And so if you want to join as well and listen in, you can apply this as well. But I'm really committed to women in this season. So let's get to it. So, what is the influence economy? And so, in my opinion, and what I have coined as the influence economy, is that this is where visibility meets intention. And what I found over the years of being a coach, being a consultant, working with business leaders, working with business owners, is that many of us, we have the mission and the message for visibility, but we don't necessarily have the method for profitability. Whether we're working for ourselves, we're working for someone else, we are often seen, but not necessarily valued. we are often recognized, but not always rewarded. And I believe that the influence economy is a new era of success where we can begin to be seen and paid well, that we can be visible and profitable, that our influence can indeed turn into income, impact, lasting opportunities, the coins, the bag, all of the things. And here's the good thing is that it's not just for a select few. It's for any woman who is willing to step up and grab it, right? If you're willing to step up and grab it, if you recognize that your influence is a currency, you'll be able to notice that, especially in this digital first world that we live in now, that influence is no longer for influencers. I'll talk a little bit probably today about how I don't necessarily agree with this whole influencer thing, but it's influence is not just for celebrities anymore. Now we're in a world where leaders, entrepreneurs, everyone alike has the opportunity for their influence to be recognized. And it's not just limited to musicians and actors and athletes like it has been in previous years. And again, why is this so important? Because if you are visible and not profitable, if you are seen and not valued, if you are seen and not paid well, that means that the goals and the visions that you have go underfunded or and sometimes unfunded. And I just don't think that's okay. And so my mission is to help to unlock that potential. Far too many of us are living beneath our profit potential. And I'm really on a mission in this season to be able to unlock that profit potential so that we are no longer living beneath it. And we can create this economy on our own terms. We can create an economy where we step up and grab hold of all of the experience and the expertise and the skill set that we have been gifted with. So I want to frame it like this. In the traditional economy, your resume opens doors, but in the influence economy, your reputation opens doors. And when I say reputation, I really want us to begin to lean into the idea of us being thought leaders. Your thought leadership is what is going to open doors. And this is especially important if you work inside of an organization, because even if you work for another company, you are still a brand per se inside of that organization. I was having a conversation with a corporate leader earlier today, and she agreed with the fact that oftentimes the reason why we're not promoted, oftentimes the reason why we are not receiving not just recognition, but being called on to spearhead initiatives is because we are shying away from demonstrating our point of value, our point of view, our POV, our opinion. We're not recognizing the ability that we have to expand our capacity by leaning into our thought leadership. What do you think about the situation? What do you think about the circumstances? What do you think about the ideas? And she was sharing, and I don't know if anyone can relate to this. If you do, feel free to put it in the chat. I guess I have to open the chat up in order to be able to see it. But I would love if you would share with me if you can relate to this. She was saying that oftentimes what she recognized as a leader inside of a corporation and a lot of women that she works with is that she was noticing that a lot of her male counterparts were the ones that were coming up with the strategy, and she was getting delegated to execution. She was getting delegated to actually doing the work. And when organizations are looking at who they're going to promote or who they're going to call on to lead the next initiative, they're looking not just at the doers, they're looking for who are the thinkers, who are the people that demonstrated that they had a point of view or an opinion on something, who is coming up with a strategy. And so I say that to say that if you're really going to tap into this concept of the influence economy, that you really need to recognize that your resume is going to matter less than your thought leadership. Another reason why that is important is because people trust individuals more nowadays than they trust institutions. We follow thought leaders, not just brands. We believe in influencers over CEOs. Why is that? Because proximity builds trust. And when we can shift into this context of recognizing that our thought leadership is going to be what's going to open doors. Our thought leadership is going to be what gets us elevated and promoted, then that is when we will be able to recognize that that's where the trust is built. And when there's trust, we've all heard the saying, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Not only does it bring in more revenue for your business, but it makes people want to work for your company. It makes people want to stay within your company. And there's so many more benefits when we lead with trust and when we lead with our thought leadership. This is how we can begin to do what I call own your influence. I want to read this quote, and I'm paraphrasing it, but I do have this quote written down. Studies show that 63% of people trust influencers more than brands. And that trust is leverage and it converts. Now, I'm not talking about influencers here in the sense of, social media influencers that say, hey, go buy this, use that product, here's my thing, whatever they're promoting. But I am using this to just give you an idea of what is involved in the power of being able to own our influence. And this is important if you're selling in your business, if you're looking to attract and retain top talent, and so much more. And when I first started, I had clients that had such huge resumes, but they didn't necessarily have any online presence. It's probably dating myself. But guess what? They were, how do I want to say it? They were invisible in a world that leans towards relevance. And that's when I realized that authority and thought leadership doesn't mean anything if no one knows you. And so the problem with that type of thinking through is the trap that visibility is enough. And again, it goes back to why it is that I'm so committed to doing what it is that I'm doing in this season, because far too many people have visibility, but they don't necessarily have profitability. And ain't nobody got time for that. So I want to break down. I have this framework that I use, and I'm not going to share the whole framework tonight for sake of time, because it's always going to be my goal to keep these live streams to less than 30 minutes. But I have this influence impact method framework, and I want to share just a couple of the components with you tonight. And so the first component is visibility. I want you to ask yourself, are you being seen by the right people? And if not, what are some of the things that you think that you could begin to do in order to have that? I want to put that in the chat. The more you talk to me, the more I'll be able to talk back to you. And again, if you want to mark your calendars, we'll be going live on most Wednesdays. Second part that I want to share with you today is credibility. Do people trust you and see you as a go-to? Are people asking to pick your brain? Are you naturally being asked to lead projects inside of your organization? If people are looking for your area of expertise, are you one of the number one people that they think about when it comes to that? And then the last piece of the method that I'll talk to you about today is profitability. Are you turning that attention into actual business? Because the real talk is that visibility without credibility is just noise. Credibility without visibility is a secret, and neither pays the bills. And when I think back to my own life, if I can just be completely transparent for a moment, there was a time that I had so much more visibility than the average person, and I still wasn't profitable. I was in major media appearances like with the Wall Street Journal. I was on television. I had top tier speaking engagements. I was side by side with celebrity clients that I was doing business for and doing business with, but my bank account was not necessarily reflecting my bio. Is it just me? I'm not even going to ask you to put it in the chat, but just raise your hand if you recognize that sometimes that the bio that you have and the bank account that you have, the math is not always mathing, right? And why? It's because I was not aligning my visibility, excuse me, with monetizing my credibility. And the idea here, the way that you can get return on investment from your visibility is by aligning your visibility with a monetization strategy. I think that we should look at always having an ecosystem of products, services, partnerships, collaboration, because that's the way that we get the highest return on investment for our visibility. I was respected, but I wasn't positioned to necessarily convert it. And when I changed my mindset around that, that is when everything changed in my business. That is when everything changed around my life. I realized that when it came to this influence game, that I was actually playing it backwards, thinking that if I could just get more exposure, then the money would follow. But then the exposure came, and then I realized that if it's not positioned right, it's just vanity. And sometimes in the beginning, you do need vanity metrics. You do need to be able to say, I've been seen here. I have this many number of followers, whatever it is that you measure it by. But at some point, you have to start treating your influence like a business asset beyond vanity metrics. And I can promise you that if you do that, that's when everything will change. That's when I started landing high ticket deals, was when I started to clarify my positioning. That's when you're able to create scalable and predictable income. Is this making sense to everybody? Hope so. This is when you start turning your speaking into paid opportunities because of strategic authority. This is when I started shifting from chasing opportunities to being able to attract them. I had someone ask me the other day, like, how is it that you always have access to so many opportunities? And I say it's because of strategic positioning. Now, again, maybe I'll do a live stream specifically on strategic positioning. I don't have time for that tonight, but that is when everything started changing. So here's what I want to know from you. And if you're on one of the platforms that you have access to a chat, here's what I want to know from you. And I'll come back and answer later if I can. But here's what I want to know. How are you currently using your influence? Or how could you be using it more strategically? I want to hear, I want to hear. And are you building your thought leadership beyond business owners? I really want to hear for y'all that are working inside of organizations. Are you building your thought leadership? What do you want to be known for? Even inside of a brand, what do you want to be known for as the leader? Who do you want to be a hero to? My mentor talks about that all the time. There's a lot of things that you can do, but who do you really want to be a hero to? And what is your POV, or your point of view, for the people that you want to be a hero to? Even if you're working inside of someone else's brand, what point of view do you have that you want to be known for? I want you to drop that in the comments. You can tag me in your stories. You can DM me. If you don't want it to be in the comments, if you don't want your employer to see what you're up to on a Wednesday night, but I want to hear how you are stepping in to this new economy. I want to hear how you have plans of the ideas that are coming to you right now of how you can begin to step into and take advantage of what I'm calling this new era of success of the influence economy. So if this unlocks something for you, I want you to share this live stream. I want you to tag someone who needs to hear it. We're building income and impact through influence, and there is room at the top. I lastly want to share something with you that you can check out. And it's what I call the influence economy playbook. And in there are sophisticated strategies that you can use. There are visibility checklists in there. There's even a visibility ROI calculator that you can use to make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck for the areas that you are visible. You can see it at the bottom of the screen, but you can get it at influenceeconomyplaybook.com. And so I'll leave you with this, and I wrote this down. In the old economy, success belonged to the connected. In the influence economy, it belongs to the positioned. The question is, are you positioned to profit? So again, I plan to do these more often. There's going to be a lot of other topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how you can make serious income and how you can also have serious impact in multiple different ways. And so I look forward to seeing you guys back here on another Wednesday. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.